The mockery, the Galactic Council chamber, buzzed with the low hum of alien voices as representatives from dozens of worlds gathered for the monthly session. Ambassador Crix of the Velton Empire stood at the center podium, his scaled skin gleaming under the artificial lights. His yellow eyes held nothing but contempt as he gestured toward the holographic display floating above the assembly. "Look at this pathetic attempt," Crix sneered, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. The display showed crude images of Earth's newest warship prototypes, bulky, angular vessels that looked more like flying scrap metal than proper spacecraft. "The humans call these warships, we call them jokes." Laughter rippled through the chamber. The Alterian delegate, a tall blue-skinned being named Vex, shook his head in disbelief. "They still use chemical propulsion for basic movement." "How quaint. And look at those weapons," added Commander Tox from the Hegemony fleet. "Primitive kinetic projectiles and outdated plasma cannons. My scout ship has better firepower than their entire fleet." The human ambassador, a middle-aged man named Tom Blake, sat quietly in the back section reserved for newer species. His face remained calm, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 5 years ago, and every session felt like a test of endurance. "The humans waste resources on quantity over quality," Crix continued, zooming in on the prototype designs. 20 of these scrap heaps versus one of our cruisers? The math is simple. They would be space dust in minutes. Blake finally stood up, his voice steady despite the hostile atmosphere. "Ambassador Crix, with respect, you judge based on appearance alone. These prototypes represent what?" Crix interrupted, his forked tongue flicking out in amusement. "Your species' inability to grasp advanced technology? We have been traveling between stars for millennia, while you are still discovering fire." More laughter filled the chamber. The Nixari delegate, a crystalline being that communicated through light patterns, flickered with what Blake recognized as condescension. Even the peaceful Orvani species seemed amused by the display. "The human military doctrine is outdated," declared Admiral Zahn from the Stellar Dominion. "They rely on armor plating and brute force. Our shields can deflect anything they throw at us." Blake remained standing, his jaw tightening. Perhaps a demonstration would settle this debate. The chamber fell silent for a moment before erupting in fresh laughter. Crix's eyes widened with delight. "A demonstration? You want to test your toys against real warships?" "I propose a controlled engagement," Blake said calmly. "One of our prototypes against one of your escort vessels. Standard rules of engagement." The Velton ambassador looked around the chamber, gathering support from his allies. "This is too good to pass up." "Very well, human. We accept your challenge. But when your ship is destroyed, Earth will acknowledge its place in this galaxy." "And if our ship wins?" Blake asked. Crix's laugh was sharp and cruel. "If your primitive vessel somehow defeats our technology, the Velton Empire will reconsider Earth's military capabilities." "But that will never happen." The other delegates murmured their agreement. The Stellar Dominion offered to host the engagement in their territory, while the Hegemony volunteered to provide neutral observers. The challenge was set for the following week. As the session ended, Blake gathered his materials and headed for the exit. The other ambassadors continued their conversations about the upcoming spectacle, treating it like entertainment rather than a serious military demonstration. "Ambassador Blake," called a voice behind him. He turned to see Captain Rex from the Frontier Alliance, one of the few species that had remained neutral during the discussion. "You realize what you have done?" "I know exactly what I've done," Blake replied quietly. "The Velton Empire has the most advanced fleet in this sector. Their escort vessels are faster and more heavily armed than most other species' flagships." "This is not a fair fight," Blake nodded. Fairness was never part of the equation. They need to learn something about humans. And what is that? That we do not build ships just to look pretty in parades. Blake's eyes had a hard glint. We build them to win wars. As he walked away, Blake thought about the prototype waiting in Earth's shipyards. The Titan-class destroyer looked crude compared to alien vessels, but appearances could be deceiving. The Empire would learn that lesson soon enough. The other. Delegates continued their celebrations, already planning to witness humanity's humiliation. They had no idea that in 1 week, everything they thought they knew about human military technology would change forever. The mockery would end, and the galaxy would finally understand why Earth had survived every challenge thrown at it. Asterisk. The journey back to Earth took 3 days, but Ambassador Blake's mind was already racing with preparations. As his transport ship entered Earth's solar system, he could see the massive orbital shipyards floating near Mars. Hundreds of vessels were under construction, but only one mattered now. The Titan-class destroyer hung in the center dock, its dark hull absorbing the light from the nearby sun. To alien eyes, it looked like a flying brick-thick armor plating, brutal angles, and weapon systems that seemed primitive. But Blake knew better. He had watched this ship being built from the ground up. "Take us to Command Station Alpha," Blake ordered the pilot. Within an hour, he was sitting across from Admiral Kate Stone, the head of Earth's Military Research Division. "They took the bait," Blake reported, settling into his chair. The Velton Empire agreed to the challenge. "1 escort vessel against our prototype." Stone nodded grimly. "The Titan is ready. Captain Davis and his crew have been training for months." "But James, are you sure about this?" "If we lose, we won't lose," Blake interrupted. "The aliens think they know what they're dealing with. They've seen our external specs, our basic weapon systems, but they have no idea what we've really built." Stone activated a holographic display showing the Titan's internal systems. "The fusion reactor alone produces 3 times more power than anything in their database. They think we're still using old nuclear technology. And the weapons? The railguns are functioning perfectly. Magnetic acceleration gives us projectile speeds they can't match. Their shields are designed to deflect energy weapons, not solid matter moving at 30% light speed." Blake studied the ship's specifications. The Titan was humanity's response to a hostile galaxy. While other species focused on elegant designs and energy efficiency, humans had built something different: a ship designed to absorb punishment and deliver devastating counterattacks. "What about the crew?" Blake asked. "Captain Davis is our best," Stone replied. "He fought in the Mars Rebellion and the asteroid mining wars. His crew is handpicked all veterans who understand what's at stake." On the shipyard, Captain Mike Davis was conducting final systems checks. His weathered face showed years of space combat, and his calm voice carried the authority of someone who had faced death many times. "Engineering report," Davis said into his com. "All systems green, Captain," came the reply from Chief Engineer Ann Fox. "The reactor is stable, and the railguns are charged. We're ready for anything." Lieutenant Ben Cross, the weapons officer, looked up from his console. "Captain, the alien vessel specifications just came in. It's a Velton light cruiser, not an escort. They're trying to stack the odds." Davis smiled grimly. "Let them. The bigger they are, the harder they fall." The Titan was different from anything in the galaxy. While alien ships relied on speed and maneuverability, the human vessel was built like a fortress. Its armor could withstand direct hits from plasma cannons, and its weapons were designed to punch through any shield technology. But the real secret was humanity's approach to warfare. Aliens fought with honor, following established rules and traditions. Humans fought to win, using any advantage they could find. "Sir," Cross continued, Intelligence reports that the Velton ship has enhanced shields and long-range plasma arrays. They plan to stay at distance and wear us down. That's what they think, Davis replied. But we're not going to play their game. We're going to get in close and show them what real firepower looks like. The preparation phase was critical. Every system was tested, every weapon calibrated. The crew ran through combat simulations, preparing for every possible scenario. They knew the galaxy was watching, waiting for humanity to fail. 3 days before the engagement, Blake visited the ship one final time. Standing on the bridge, he looked out at the stars beyond Earth's atmosphere. Somewhere out there, alien species were laughing at humanity's boldness. Asterisk. Captain Davis, Blake said quietly, the entire future of our species might depend on this battle. Davis nodded without hesitation. We understand, Ambassador. This ship was built for one purpose, to prove that humans belong in this galaxy. We won't let Earth down. As the Titan prepared to depart for the engagement zone, its crew knew they carried more than just weapons and armor. They carried humanity's hopes, dreams, and determination to survive in a universe that had already decided they were inferior. The mockery was about to end, and the galaxy was about to learn why humans had never lost a war. They were determined to win. Asterisk. The neutral zone near the Frontier Alliance territory buzzed with activity as dozens of alien vessels gathered to witness what they expected to be humanity's humiliation. The observation ships maintained a safe distance, their crews eager to record the destruction of Earth's prototype. Admiral Zaun's flagship, the Stellar Pride, held position at the center of the observation fleet. On the bridge, alien commanders from various species had gathered to watch the spectacle. The mood was celebratory, as if they were attending a festival rather than a military engagement. The human ship approaches, reported the sensor officer. On the main display, the Titan appeared as a dark silhouette against the stars. Its brutal, angular design drew snickers from the assembled aliens. Look at that thing, laughed Commander. Tox. It moves like a flying asteroid. No grace, no elegance. Ambassador Crix stood beside Admiral Zaun, his yellow eyes gleaming with anticipation. The Velton cruiser's swift death is already in position. This will be over quickly. 3,000 kilometers away, Captain Davis stood on the Titan's bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. The alien cruiser appeared on his tactical display, sleek, silver, and bristling with energy weapons. Range? Davis asked calmly. 12,000 kilometers and closing, replied Lieutenant Cross. They're trying to maintain distance, Captain. Classic alien tactics. Let them think they're in control, Davis said. Engineering? How's our reactor? Running at 60%, Captain, came Ann Fox's voice. We have plenty of power in reserve. The swift death opened fire first, sending brilliant streams of plasma across the void. The shots struck the Titan's forward armor, creating spectacular light shows, but causing minimal damage. The alien weapon systems were designed to overload shields, not penetrate thick steel plating. Their plasma cannons are barely scratching. Our hull, Cross reported. Should we return fire? Not yet, Davis replied. Let them waste their energy. Close to 8,000 kilometers. On the observation ships, the aliens watched in confusion as the human vessel absorbed hit after hit, without returning fire. The Titan pushed forward like an unstoppable force, its armor glowing from repeated plasma strikes. Why aren't they fighting back? Asked Vex, the Alterian delegate. Are their weapon systems damaged? Crix frowned at the display. Perhaps they're already defeated. The human ship is just too primitive to realize it. But Captain Davis was far from defeated. He was executing a strategy that aliens couldn't comprehend: tactical patience, while the swift death expended energy maintaining its plasma barrage. The Titan conserved power and closed the distance. 6,000 kilometers, Cross reported. Their shields are at full strength, but their energy readings are dropping. Perfect, Davis said. All stop. Target their main reactor housing. The Titan suddenly halted its advance, hanging motionless. In space. For a moment, the alien cruiser continued its plasma bombardment, confused by the human ship's behavior. Then the Titan fired. The railgun discharge was invisible to the naked eye, but the result was devastating. A solid tungsten rod, accelerated to 30% light speed, struck the Swift Death's shields with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The alien shields flared brilliant white and collapsed instantly. The projectile continued through the hull, punching clean through the ship's armor and exiting the other side. Secondary explosions erupted along the cruiser's length as internal systems overloaded. Impossible, whispered Admiral Zahn, staring at his display in shock. Their shields should have deflected that. What kind of weapon was that? Demanded Crix, his confident demeanor cracking. The Swift Death tried to retreat, but the Titan fired. Again. This time, the railgun struck the alien vessel's engine section. The cruiser's rear third disappeared in a brilliant explosion, leaving the ship dead in space. The engagement is over, Davis announced calmly. Alien vessel is disabled. No further hostilities necessary. The observation fleet sat in stunned silence. The engagement had lasted less than 10 minutes, and the result was the complete destruction of one of the galaxy's most advanced warships by a ship they had mocked as primitive. How? Vex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Commander. Tox stared at the tactical display, his mind struggling to process what he had witnessed. The projectile velocity, ... It's impossible. No known technology can achieve those speeds. But humans had achieved it, using principles the aliens had dismissed as crude. While the galaxy focused on exotic energy weapons and defensive shields, humanity had perfected the art of accelerating solid matter to devastating velocities. The Titan turned slowly and began its journey back to Earth, leaving behind a field of debris and a galaxy that would never again underestimate human ingenuity. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. 3 days after the engagement, representatives from dozens of worlds sat in stunned silence as the official battle recordings played on the central hologram. The destruction of the Swift Death replayed in slow motion, each frame showing the devastating effectiveness of human weapons. Ambassador Crix sat in his usual position, but his proud demeanor had vanished. His scaled skin had lost its vibrant color, and his yellow eyes stared at the display with something approaching fear. The Velton Empire's most advanced escort vessel had been reduced to scrap metal in minutes. The projectile velocity readings had been confirmed, announced Counselor Prime Axis, an ancient being who rarely spoke during sessions. The human weapon achieved 32% light speed. This exceeds all known ballistic capabilities by a factor of 10. Admiral Zahn shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His flagship had recorded everything, and the sensor data was undeniable. The impact energy was equivalent to a tactical nuclear weapon. But it was just a piece of metal. Just a piece of metal moving fast enough to punch through anything, corrected Dr. Nex, the Council's chief scientist. The humans have weaponized basic physics in a way we never considered. Ambassador Blake entered the chamber, his expression calm but alert. The other delegates watched him with new respect mixed with wariness. He was no longer the representative of a backward species. He was the voice of a military power that had just embarrassed the galaxy's strongest empire. The floor recognizes Ambassador Blake, announced the Counselor Prime. Blake stood slowly, looking around the chamber. Honored delegates, I believe we have proven our point. The challenge was accepted, fought fairly, and concluded. Earth requests no further hostilities. No further hostilities? Crix's voice cracked slightly. You destroyed our ship. Your ship was disabled, not destroyed, Blake replied evenly. The crew was rescued by your own vessels. We followed the rules of engagement exactly as agreed. Commander Tox leaned forward. How? How did you achieve those velocities? Our scientists say it's impossible. Magnetic acceleration, Blake answered simply. We discovered that by using sequential electromagnetic fields, we could accelerate projectiles to previously impossible speeds. The technology has existed for decades, but the power requirements, Dr. Nex started, are manageable with proper reactor design, Blake continued. While you focused on energy weapons and exotic technologies, we perfected the basics. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. The chamber erupted in whispered conversations. Species that had dismissed humanity as primitive now realized they had completely misunderstood Earth's military capabilities. The implications were staggering. Asterisk. This changes everything, muttered Vex, the Alterian delegate. If humans can build one such ship, they can build 100. Or 1,000, added another voice from the back of the chamber. Admiral Zahn stood up, his massive frame dominating his section. The Stellar Dominion requests a formal assessment of human military capabilities. We need to understand the full scope of their technology. The hegemony seconds this motion, declared Commander Tox. Our current threat assessments are clearly inadequate. Blake raised his hand for silence. Earth is willing to share certain technologies with species that approach us as equals, not conquerors. We never sought conflict with the galaxy. We only wanted respect. Respect, Crix repeated bitterly. You have certainly earned that. The Counselor Prime's ancient voice filled the chamber. The Council hereby recognizes that Earth's military capabilities were severely underestimated. A species classification will be updated from developing to advanced, effective immediately. This announcement sent shockwaves through the assembled delegates. Advanced classification meant voting rights, trade privileges, and most importantly, protection under galactic law. Humanity had jumped from galactic newcomer to major power in a single engagement. Furthermore, the Counselor continued, the Council recommends that all species review their assessment protocols. This incident demonstrates the danger of judging capabilities by appearance alone. As the session ended, Blake found himself surrounded by alien ambassadors who had ignored him for years. Now they wanted to discuss trade agreements, technology exchanges, and mutual defense pacts. The balance of power had shifted dramatically. Captain Davis, watching the proceedings from Earth through quantum communication, smiled grimly. The Titan had done more than win a battle. It had rewritten humanity's place in the galaxy. Mission accomplished, he said to his crew. The mockery is over. But on distant worlds, military leaders were already drawing up new plans. If humans could build one ship like the Titan, they needed to know what else Earth was hiding. The galaxy had underestimated humanity once. They would not make that mistake again. 6 months after the engagement, the galaxy had transformed. Trade. Routes that had never included Earth now made regular stops at human colonies. Species that had dismissed humanity as primitive now sent diplomatic envoys begging for technology exchanges. The balance of power had shifted, and everyone knew it. Ambassador. Blake stood in his new office, overlooking the expanded Earth Embassy complex. Through the massive windows, he could see alien vessels arriving daily, their crews eager to establish relationships with the species that had shocked the galaxy. The morning briefing, sir, said his aide, Lisa Park, entering with a stack of diplomatic pouches. 12 new trade proposals, 6 defense alliance requests, and 3 formal apologies from species that voted against our council membership. Blake nodded, unsurprised. Any word from the Velton Empire? Ambassador Crix has requested a private meeting. He says it's urgent. Within an hour, Crix sat across from Blake in the embassy's conference room. The proud Velton had changed dramatically since the engagement. His scales had dulled, and his once arrogant posture was replaced by cautious respect. "The Empire acknowledges its error," Crix began, his voice carefully controlled. "We underestimated human capabilities and paid the price. We wish to discuss terms." "Terms?" Blake asked, keeping his expression neutral. "The Velton Empire requests a non-aggression pact with Earth. In exchange, we offer access to our hyperdrive technology and favorable trade agreements." Blake studied the alien ambassador. The Velton Empire had gone from mocking humanity to begging for protection in less than a year. "What changed your mind?" Crix's yellow eyes flickered with something approaching fear. "Our intelligence division has been studying human military development. You have 47 ships under construction, all based on your Titan design. But that's not what concerns us." "What concerns you?" "The orbital defense platforms around Earth, the magnetic accelerators built into your space stations. The fact that you've turned your entire solar system into a fortress." Crix leaned forward. "We realize now that the Titan was not your most advanced ship. It was your test model." Blake smiled slightly. Crix was more perceptive than most aliens. Earth's military had indeed been busy since the engagement. The victory had bought them time and resources to expand their defensive capabilities exponentially. "We never intended to threaten anyone," Blake said honestly. "But we also refused to be anyone's victims." Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Stone reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The galaxy was scrambling to understand human technology, but they were approaching it all wrong. They still thought in terms of exotic materials and complex energy systems. "The hegemony is trying to reverse engineer our railgun technology," reported Commander West, her intelligence chief. "They're failing because they assume we're using exotic matter." "Let them waste their time," Stone replied. "By the time they figure out we're just using physics, we'll be 3 generations ahead." The door chimed, and Captain Davis entered, now wearing the insignia of a full admiral. His promotion had come with Earth's rapid military expansion. "The new Titan-class ships are ready for trials," Davis reported. "We've improved the reactor efficiency by 20%. And increased the railgun velocity to 38% light speed." "And the new project?" Stone asked. Davis smiled grimly. "The Colossus class is ahead of schedule. When it's complete, we'll have a ship that can take on an entire fleet." Stone nodded. The galaxy had seen humanity's opening move, but they had no idea what was coming next. Earth's shipyards were producing vessels that would make the original Titan look like a scout ship. Back at the embassy, Blake finished his meeting with Crix. The Velton Empire had agreed to Earth's terms, joining a growing list of species seeking human protection rather than challenging human power. "One more thing," Blake said as Crix prepared to leave. "The Council is voting on the new defense initiative next week. Earth expects the Empire's support." "Of course," Crix replied quickly. "The Empire stands with Earth." As the alien ambassador left, Blake reflected on how completely the situation had changed. 6 months ago, the galaxy had mocked humanity's crude ships and primitive weapons. Now, those same species were begging for protection and alliance. The transformation was complete. Earth had gone from galactic laughingstock to galactic superpower in a single engagement. The Empire had mocked Earth's prototypes, but they would never make that mistake again. In the depths of space, human ships patrolled trade routes that had never known protection. The galaxy was safer now, under the watch of the species everyone had underestimated. The mockery was over. The age of human dominance had begun. Asterisk.